Michigan Delta, Saginaw Valley State University. Thank you.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Lauren Zion from Saginaw Valley State University from Michigan. This is my first year in Alfred High. My major is Spanish. I'm going into education. My minor is English, and currently I decided to get an ESL endorsement, or English as a second language. And I'm currently working on my honors thesis for the college, and this is going to be basically an evolution of Spanish education. There's no way I could definitely speak about all the different things that I want to include in my paper, but I'll try to touch on all of that. And basically, get started here. So as everyone knows, the United States is a melting pot. We've started with immigrants from countries, all different countries, all different genders, races, and with that, they all brought their own unique identity and language to the United States. For this reason, we never really created an official national language, and there's been a lot of debate as well in current years about whether we should have a national language and have the immigrants, as it was customary in the past when they came to America. While there was no official language, English was the dominant language, and when they came, they would want to assimilate into our culture, learn American values, American customs. But now, they're wondering, since there has not been an official language, whether it should stay where anyone can come, they can speak whatever they want. But with the influx of more Spanish students coming, Spanish-speaking students to America, it's really changed and altered our curriculum. We've had to worry about whether we definitely want to accommodate for all students in the education system. But how much should we accommodate? How much should we change our curriculum? These are all questions, whether bilingual teaching should happen or we should have immersion programs. So this is just a little bit of the debate. So I'll start just by talking a little bit about the history. So the education, Spanish education would not be where it is today if it wasn't for the United States funding back in the 1940s. Originally, the military was one of the main factors why we needed more funding for foreign language education. They felt it was necessary and desirable for not only those in the military, but also for the general public to learn and acquire a second language. And it was after the World Wars, we really wanted for our main foreign policy goal just to be peace, peaceful relations with every country. And they assumed that with more foreign language skills for our general public, that'd be a way that we could do that. So for the military, they also wanted, when we went to another foreign country, that they would be able to peacefully speak with the inhabitants of the land, gain their trust. That way it would just be a better relationship. In addition to funding from the military, but also the military for this reason provided pocketbooks, conversation guides, and a bunch of instructional materials, not only for those involved, but also for the general public. With this, also public organized education was also funded in the 1940s. One of the reasons was the international residence and travel, or that was one of our goals. Currently, a lot of you in this room may have studied abroad, or you want to in the future. We think it'll help develop your skills, to learn more about foreign nation, their culture, and it's just a great experience overall. In the 1940s, there were about 9,000 students in America studying abroad. They were from generally India, England, and the Netherlands. And what we wanted to do, rather than have just people coming to America and learning about us, we wanted to send more of our students away, and also our educators. So we had many teachers going, and we encouraged them to stay about 1 year in a Spanish-speaking, mainly Latin America or Spain. And that way, when they came back to teach Spanish, they would have much more knowledge of the culture as well. So in addition to the residence and travel, we also had national workshops where Spanish-speaking teachers, mainly the Spanish and Portuguese were the two top languages. they would have national conferences similar to our Alpha Chi conference. They would all get together, they would work on individual problems they were seeing in the classroom, and also help to develop their lesson plans. And that way it would be also uniform teaching throughout America. The English Teacher Project, that was where 16 educators from different Latin American countries would come to America, and it was a 3-month project. The first month is where they would be immersed in American culture and learn English and develop their linguistic skills. And then after the next 2 months, they'd be placed in public universities, colleges, and high schools and do their observation. Much like most of our education students would be sitting in a classroom, watching, taking down notes, and then at the end of the day, they would go to the teacher and then give them their feedback and say how you could even improve your linguistic skills of the teacher. The teacher, if they are speaking incorrectly, you don't want them to be having all the students learning incorrectly, so that helped as well develop our curriculum. So as I mentioned before, immigration was also a very big factor. And with this, in the recent years, in the last decade or so, it has been increasing more. I know there's been controversy with illegal immigrants coming from Mexico, but overall, there's a lot of immigration, and they're mainly Spanish speakers. With this, we want to make sure, I actually read an article, it was geared, it was actually geared at social work, but much of the same ideas relate exactly to foreign language instruction, where we want to make sure that we are accommodating for all students, and we really need to train our teachers better, because students who may be immigrants, they're dealing with a lot of issues. They're dealing with, maybe difficult things at home. Their parents might only speak Spanish, and they're trying to be the buffer, like the transition between the two. And so we really want to train our teachers more in a social work kind of aspect as well, especially if you're in certain states that are primarily filled with students, ESL learners. And so that is another thing that we want to change our curriculum, or at least do more research on it as well. So with that, the National Language Policy, and this is, like I said, part of the debate. There's two sides. One side thinks that in the classroom, the students should assimilate, and it's called the immersion program, where Spanish speakers will have to be surrounded completely by the English-speaking students and the teacher who speaks English. And I don't know about you, but I went to Mexico for a month, and everyone was speaking Spanish around me, and they told me you don't need to know Spanish when you go there. People speak English. That really wasn't the case, and I was completely in this immersion, and it was great because I did learn, at least hearing, I could understand better, but it didn't improve my speaking skills. That's what I felt, at least. So there's people who feel immersion is one way. The other is the bilingual teaching, and that's literally where the teacher will come in and say, "Good morning, buenos dias," and they'll go back and forth, so then you are connecting the dots between the English and the Spanish. But then others argue that, no, if you're in immersion, you're forced to learn, and you learn much quicker. So there's two sides of the debate. I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer, but I felt that in New York, there was one study where it said the students, they have 2 years in bilingualism, where the teacher will say both, and then after 2 years, you have to go to immersion. That way they have a little bit of a transition period. So I feel that if we do that, it might work out the best. But really, like I said, there's no right or wrong answer.